This is the data entry portion of Module 3 of the IDIS online training for CDBG grantees. In this video, we will walk through the process of adding a housing activity to IDIS and also how to update and complete that housing activity. I want to encourage you to follow along with the video and practice entering the data yourself in the UAT version of IDIS. This will be the best way to learn IDIS. You can switch back and forth between this video and IDIS by holding down the Alt key on your keyboard and then pressing the Tab key. Go ahead and pause the video at this time and log into the UAT version of IDIS. You'll know if you're in the UAT version if you see UAT at the top of the screen. There are directions on accessing the UAT version of IDIS at the bottom of the login page and in Module 1 of this course. I'll be using the data found in Case Study 2 of the course. You can use the data from the case study or simply make it up as you go along. Assignment 1 of the case study says that we are 2 weeks into the program year and the rehab manager tells us that she completed an emergency repair at 456 South Cedar. It's up to us to add the activity to IDIS so we can draw down funds and reimburse the city for all of its eligible costs. Here we are at the home page of IDIS. To add an activity, we will click on the Projects and Activities in the navigation menu. The system, by default, shows the Search Activities page. This is used to find existing activities in the system. We don't want to look for an existing activity, we need to add a new activity. If you look to the left, you will see all of your options under the Project Activities module. You should see a link to add an activity. If you don't see this, your user profile may not have permission to add activities, in which case you would need to talk to your local IDIS administrator to obtain this permission. Once you click on the link, the system will take you to the Add Activity page where we can start entering data. If you are following along in your course manual, we are on page 3-2. Most users can skip past the Activity Owner field as it will default to the correct grantee. The next field is Program Year. Click on the drop-down arrow and select the year you want. If you don't see the correct year, this most likely means you have not yet set up your projects for that year. You need to add your projects first and then come back and add your activities. In this case study, we will set up our activities under 2010. In the next field, you will select the project that you want to associate with this activity. If you completed Module 2 of this course, you should see the projects that you added here. I'm going to select this Housing Rehab project. If you did not complete Module 2, you can select any project. The next field is Activity Name. It's a good idea to establish a naming convention that will help you quickly identify what each activity is. In the case study, our activity is representing emergency repairs at 456 South Cedar. Since we are setting up a separate activity for each property, we can use the address in the activity name. To protect the privacy of the assisted household, HUD recommends against using the person's name in the activity name, as this information will show up on public reports as part of your CAPER. The Grantee/PJ Activity ID is another field that can help you quickly identify an activity. This is an optional field. HUD does not require it. Many grantees populate this field with information that will help them reconcile their IDIS information and their local financial records, such as a contract number, purchase order number, or local accounting code. The next field is a big one. If you click on the Activity Category field for CDBG, you'll see a long list of all the eligible uses of CDBG and their corresponding matrix codes. It's really important to select the most appropriate matrix code here because the system will prompt us for different sets of information based on the matrix code we select. For our case study, the most appropriate matrix code is 14A, Rehab of Single Unit Residential Housing. The next field is Environmental Assessment. You will want to check with whomever in your office is responsible for environmental review. For the case study, we will select Underway. To the right of the environmental assessment, you will see a field called Allow Another Organization to Access This Activity. You only need to provide this information if you plan on giving IDIS access to a subrecipient so they can add their own data to the system. 99.9% of grantees don't provide IDIS access to their subrecipients and therefore can skip past this field. The last field is the description field. HUD has not provided any guidance on the amount of detail you need to provide, so just use common sense. The main audience for this information is your HUD CPD rep. so you may want to discuss with them the level of detail they would like to see. For the case study, I'll put in a short sentence describing how CDBG funds will be used. If you have the description in another document on your computer, you can use copy and paste. For example, I have the description in a Word document that I can copy and paste. Once you are done with the description, let's click Save at the bottom. If you provided all of the required data, you should see Once you are done with the description, let's click Save at the bottom. If you provided all of the required data, you should see a Activity Saved message at the top. If you missed a required field, the system will prompt you for that information before it will let you save the screen. A quick note about required fields. The fields marked as required are the fields that the system will make you populate before saving the screen. There are many fields that are not required by the system that your HUD CPD rep will want to see answered so they can get a full picture of how the funds are being used. The description is a good example. Once this first page is saved, the system will assign an IDIS activity ID to the activity. You may want to write down this number in your project file, as it is a quick way to find the activity in the system. You will also see the system added some additional fields, including activity status, which defaults to open, the completion date, and the initial funding date. You will also see a column in the activity category table called Ready to Fund. In the row for CDBG, it says Ready to Fund is No. This means we still need to provide more data and complete the activity setup before we can commit funds and draw money against this activity. To complete the activity setup, we'll click on the button in the Setup Detail column for CDBG called Add CDBG. Here's the first of 2 pages of Setup Detail. In the manual, we are on page 3-5. Take note that the system is displaying the matrix code in big, bold letters across the top of the page. As noted earlier, the fields we see and the data we need to input on the setup and completion pages will depend on the matrix code we selected. The type of data we need to collect will also depend on the national objective, which is the first field on this page. It is extremely important to select the most appropriate matrix code and national objective. If you click on the drop-down for National Objective, you will see a list of the national objectives available for the selected matrix code. The system will limit your choice of national objectives based on the matrix code we selected on the first page. If you don't see the national objective you want, chances are you selected the wrong matrix code. There is a nice help feature built into the system here. If you click on the Lookup table, the system will open a cross-reference table in a new window. A printed version of this table is also included in Appendix C of the course material. The table has 3 columns: matrix code, national objective, and accomplishment type. To use the table, find your matrix code. In the case study, we selected 14A for single unit residential rehab. Once we find our matrix code, we will look in the middle column to see the different national objectives we could use for this activity. The third column will tell us what accomplishment types we can use. For our case study, we will use low mod housing, LMH. Notice on the chart there is more than one LMH. There is LMH and LMH SP. How do I know which one to choose? Appendix B in your course manual will list all of the national objectives, a short description, and a CDBG citation where you can get more information. In most cases, grantees should use the 3-letter codes such as LMH, LMA, and LMC, although it is good to know that the other codes are available. If you have questions about which code to choose, be sure to discuss it with your HUD CPD representative. The next field is accomplishment type. You will see that the system is not giving us a choice here. It's saying that based on our selected matrix code and national objective, we have to measure housing units. HUD allows grantees to space the proposed benefits over more than 1 year if the grantee feels that the project will take more than 1 year to complete. For example, assume the activity is to rehab a 20-unit apartment building, and based on the level of work, the contractor can do half this year and half next year. You would insert the current program year, put in 10 in the count, then press Add Another Year. The system will give you a new row to input the goal for the second year. In our case study, our activity is representing a single unit, so we'll type 1 and we're done. The next two fields relate to HUD's performance measurement framework. If you want more information on performance measurement, there is a lot of material on the HUD CPD website. This information should also be included in your action plan, so you may want to reference your plan. The objective is used to indicate why you are undertaking the activity. For this activity, we will choose the housing option, so our objective is decent, affordable housing. The outcome is used to indicate what we hope to achieve by undertaking the activity. For this activity, we will choose affordability. Again, there is no right or wrong answer here. I would urge you to try to be consistent with the information you provided in your action plan. Next comes the address field. For our case study, we can provide the address of the house we plan on repairing. If you were setting up one activity to represent your entire rehab program and all areas of your city were eligible to participate, you could put community-wide. HUD does not want to see the address of the program administrator here. They want to use this information to determine what areas of the community are receiving a benefit. Once you have provided the address information, you will want to click on the Validate this address field. If the system is able to validate the address, you can click on the icon and get more information about the address provided, including a link to a Google map of the area. In some cases, the system will not be able to validate the address, in which case you can skip the validation process at the time. The next section is labeled Activity Purpose and contains 4 yes/no questions that describe who will benefit from the activity. Answer yes or no based on the type of activity you are carrying out. In our case study, we will leave everything as no. On the right side of the screen is a section labeled Associate to another activity, with the question, will accomplishments be reported at another activity? You can use this field when you have more than one activity in IDIS for the same scope of work. For example, if we set up 20 IDIS activities to represent 20 housing rehab loans, and an extra activity to represent our program delivery costs, we would report all the beneficiaries on under the 20 activities. If we reported the 20 units under program delivery as well, we would be double counting our accomplishments. Instead, we would answer yes to this question for the program delivery activity and specify an activity number for one of the other 20 activities. By doing so, the system will let us complete the activity without providing accomplishment data. You will use the next section to indicate who is carrying out the activity. If the grantee is carrying out the activity with its own staff or through contractors, you will answer yes to the first question and choose one of the selections from the drop-down. If the activity is being carried out by a subrecipient or other entity, you will answer no to the first question. When you do so, you will see that the information below becomes active, at which point you can click on the Select Organization button to choose a subrecipient and select the type of organization from the drop-down list on the right. Selecting an organization is fairly straightforward. When searching for an organization, try typing just a portion of the name instead of the exact name, and you will get better results. You may see an organization listed more than once. If that's the case, choose the one with the most recent information. If you cannot find the organization in the system, you will have to add it. Keep in mind that you will need to know the DUNS number of the organization when you add it to the system. For more information on adding an organization, please see Appendix D of your course manual. For the case study, we will select yes to the first question and answer grantees and contractors to the drop-down. The next section is target area. While the field is not required for most activities, it is important to provide this information when it is applicable. You will see 3 target areas available from the drop-down: CDFI, Local, and Strategy. There is more information on each in Appendix E of your manual. CDFI stands for Community Development Financial Institution and is the least common target area of the 3. You will only select it if a CDFI is carrying out the activity and is utilizing the regulatory flexibility provided to CDFIs under the CDBG regulations. The local target area is defined by you, the grantee, and does not require HUD approval. A local target area would be any area where the grantee is making a concentrated effort to improve the area. Grantees may want to refer to their action plan, which should list or describe any target areas they have. If a grantee uses this feature, the PR84 report will summarize your accomplishments for each area. Grantees will only select strategy area when the activity is undertaken as part of a Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy Area, or NRSA. NRSAs are approved by HUD and are part of your con plan or action plan. For the case study, let's assume the house we are repairing is located within a local target area in the Brightwood neighborhood where the city is carrying out aggressive code enforcement, housing rehab, and public facility improvements. I'll select Local Target Area from the drop-down. If the target area has already been added to the system, you'll see it in the Area Name drop-down. I don't see it, so I will click Add New Area. The next screen lists all of the existing target areas in the system. If I don't see my choice, I'll click on the Add button to add the area. On the next screen, I will give the area name, indicate the type of target area, and click Save. When I return to the Setup Detail screen, I should now see that target area as one of my choices. I'll also see this choice for all of my other activities as well. The next section is called Special Characteristics, and you simply check the box next to each field if it applies. If you're not sure if they apply or not, please refer to page 3.9 in your manual. Grantees in states that border Mexico will see an additional choice for colonias. If you place a check next to brownfield redevelopment, the system will prompt you to indicate how many acres are being remediated. The next section is a collection of checkboxes that relate to specific regulatory requirements of the CDBG program. If the activity will involve one-for-one replacement or displacement, you will see some narrative fields during the completion of the activity that can be used to describe how the grantee complied with these requirements. You will see that special assessment and favored activity are grayed out for this activity. The system knows, based on our matrix code, that these would not apply. The two other choices are revolving loan and float funded, which could apply to this activity. Go ahead and check them if they apply based on the funding of your program. If you check float funded, the system will prompt you for additional information regarding the float at the bottom of the screen. Once you're done, you'll see our options at the bottom. If we click Save, the system will save the data and return us to the previous screen. However, we still have one more page of data entry, so we want to click Save and Continue. This will bring us to page 2 of the setup detail. If you were to hit Cancel, the system would not save any of your changes and it would take you back to the previous page. Here's the last page of the setup detail. Once we complete it, we will be done with activity setup. Again, notice the matrix code listed at the top of the page. The fields that the system is displaying is partially based on the matrix code we selected. For our housing activity, we see two housing-related questions. Does the activity involve multifamily or rental housing? For our case study, we'll answer no to both. The next section asks for the budget of the activity. Notice that the CDBG field is grayed out. Once you draw funds against this activity, the system will populate that field for you. You'll also notice that these fields are not required by the system to complete the screen. This is because some activities are fully funded by CDBG and these fields would be blank. If the activity does have other funds involved, it is really important to provide this information. One of the ways the CDBG program is evaluated at the federal level is its ability to leverage funds. If filled out correctly, this section helps demonstrate that CDBG funds are in fact leveraging other available dollars. Our case study states that the activity will receive $1,000 from a local housing trust fund. At the time of activity setup, you may not know the final budget for an activity. HUD has stated that it's permissible to provide budget estimates at this point. Once you have provided information here and the activity has drawn funds, the system will calculate a leveraging ratio for the activity. The next section collects data on how the CDBG funds are being distributed. In our case study, this activity represents a grant given to a homeowner, so we will put 1 in the grant field. If you are providing a loan, you would want to fill out this table as well, including the average interest rate, amortization period, and total amount of funds loaned. Many grantees have programs where the loan is only payable upon sale or transfer of the property and therefore has no amortization period. If that's so, you can use 99 in the amortization period field. If the activity involves multi-unit housing, you would fill out the next table, indicating the number of units at the start and the number of units at completion by income level. Finally, the last section collects additional information regarding housing rehabilitation. This information will help HUD distinguish between minor repair programs and comprehensive repair programs. Read the section carefully. It states that if the activity is limited to one of more of the following. If the activity scope is beyond the items listed, you will leave this section blank. In our case, we will check Perform Emergency Housing Repairs. When we're done, we will click Save. This saves the second page and takes us back to the page we started at. If the page saved, we should now see that the activity is ready to fund. In addition, if you are the person who will do the activity funding, the system gives you a little shortcut button that will take you straight to the activity funding screen for this specific activity. At this point, go ahead and fund the activity and create a drawdown for the activity. If you want to follow the case study, the drawdown should be for $900. If you need step-by-step guidance for the activity funding and drawdown, please view the video for the funding and drawdown module. The next portion of this video will demonstrate how to update and complete this housing activity.